In the late 16th century, Queen Elizabeth was a Protestant royal who faced perpetual threats to her life and reign. Real enemies and exaggerated fears led to paranoia, and the royal court responded with a secret war. Long before the FBI, CIA, MI5 or any other secret service came into operation, England's first great brush with espionage, spies and even kidnappers were deployed in the Elizabethan period to keep the Queen of England, Elizabeth I, safe. The threats facing late Tudor England came from both home and abroad. Decades of hostility between Spain and England were exacerbated by England's provocative policy of letting privateers raid Spanish treasure fleets. As the Spanish king Philip II lost patience with his piratical neighbours, the English rightly feared invasion. Within England, meanwhile, Mary Queen of Scots, a rival for Elizabeth's throne, was living under house arrest since 1568. Some Catholics hoped to overthrow England and replace her with Mary. Catholic priests such as Edmund Campion were smuggled into England, where they preached to secret congregations. For some, they were upholders of the true faith. To Elizabeth, they were traitors. To protect the Queen, the Secret Service was born. The Spy Master. Born in 1532, Sir Francis Walsingham served as English ambassador to France in the early 1570s and witnessed the Bartholomew Day Massacre. As Principal Secretary, he supported exploration, colonisation, the use of England's maritime strength, and the plantation of Ireland. Walsingham's men infiltrated Catholic circles at home and abroad. The letters of foreign ambassadors and nobles were copied by English agents, while the names and movements of English rebels were carefully gathered. Walsingham had a spy network. He used actors and merchants because of their ability to move around both the country and abroad, those close to the Queen, Dr. D with 007, ambassadors and anyone Walsingham had evidence on and could blackmail into doing his bidding. By its very secrecy, evidence for it is incomplete. Very little is known about Spanish spies against England, while mystery hangs around the possible role of 16th century playwright Christopher Marlowe or even William Shakespeare. Some claim that Marlowe was a spy for the court and this led to his murder in 1593, but without better evidence, historians will never be sure. Using codes. The spies would use secret inks and lots of use of codes and ciphers. Ciphers became particularly important during the infamous Barrington Plot, when Walsingham's agents decrypted letters to and from Mary Queen of Scots. This provided evidence that Mary was conspiring against Elizabeth, leading to Mary's trial and execution. In addition to thwarting Catholic plots at home, the Elizabethan spy network gathered intelligence on foreign schemes. This included military and political plans, as well as the identity of Catholic agents being prepared in Rome. Torture. Walsingham was driven by Protestant zeal to counter Catholicism and sanctioned the use of torture against Catholic priests and suspected conspirators. Edward Campion was amongst those tortured and found guilty on the basis of extracted evidence. He was hanged, drawn and quartered at Tyburn in 1581. The John Story Plot, 1570. The first significant covert operation was the kidnapping of John Story in 1570. An English Catholic, Story had fled to the Low Countries, where he plotted against Elizabeth while working for the Spanish. Sir William Cecil, Elizabeth's chief advisor, ordered agents to kidnap Story and bring him home for questioning. Cecil's agents tricked Story into searching their boat, trapped him on board, and whisked him away. Rodolfi Plot, 1571. The Rodolfi Plot was to assassinate Queen Elizabeth I of England and replace her with Mary, Queen of Scots. The plot was hatched and planned by Robert Rodolfi, an international banker who was able to travel between Brussels, Rome and Madrid to gather support without attracting too much suspicion. Thomas Howard, 4th Duke of Norfolk, a cousin of Queen Elizabeth and the wealthiest landowner in the country, had been proposed as a possible husband for Mary since her imprisonment in 1568. This suited Norfolk, who had ambitions and felt Elizabeth persistently undervalued him. In pursuit of his goals, he agreed to support the Northern Rebellion, though he quickly lost his nerve. Norfolk was imprisoned in the Tower of London for 9 months and only freed under house arrest when he confessed all and begged for mercy. Pope Pius V, in his 1570 papal bull Regnans in Excelsis, excommunicated the Protestant Elizabeth and permitted all faithful Catholics to do all they could to depose her. The majority of English Catholics ignored the bull, but in response to it, Elizabeth became much harsher to Catholics and their sympathisers. The Throttmorton Plot, 1583. The Throttmorton Plot aimed to free Mary, Queen of Scots again, who was still under house arrest, and make her Queen of England and legally restore Roman Catholicism. That would be achieved by a Spanish-backed invasion of England, led by the French Duke of Guise, supported by a simultaneous revolt of English Roman Catholics. In this plot, it would be Guise who would marry Mary and become king. Guise was head of the Catholic League, a key participant in the French Wars of Religion. As one of those who planned the 1572 Bartholomew Day massacre, he was loathed by Protestants throughout Europe, and perhaps the least likely candidate for such an undertaking. It was perhaps typical of the amateurish and overly optimistic approach of many such attempts. Throckmorton was placed under surveillance almost as soon as he returned to England, and the plot never put into action. The Barrington Plot, 1586. The Barrington Plot was a plan in 1586 to assassinate Queen Elizabeth I, a Protestant, and prop Mary, Queen of Scots, her Roman Catholic cousin, on the throne of England. Mary had now been in captivity for 19 years, and this latest plot led directly to her execution. The long-term goal of the plot was the invasion of England by the Spanish forces, 60,000 men, of King Philip II of Spain and the Catholic League in France, leading to the restoration of the old religion. The plot was discovered by Elizabeth's spymaster Sir Francis Walsingham and used to entrap Mary for the purpose of removing her once and for all as claimant to the English throne. The chief conspirators were Anthony Barrington and John Ballard. Barrington was a young noble Catholic and was recruited by Ballard, a Jesuit priest who hoped to rescue the Scottish Queen. However, working for Walsingham were double agents, Robert Poley and Gilbert Gifford, as well as Thomas Phillips, a spy agent and cryptanalyst, and the Puritan spy Malovery Catlin. The turbulent Catholic deacon Gifford had been in Walsingham's service since the end of 1585 or the beginning of 1586. Gifford obtained a letter of introduction to Queen Mary from a confidant and spy for her, Thomas Morgan. Walsingham placed double agent Gifford and spy decipherer Phillips inside Chartley Castle when Mary, Queen of Scots, was imprisoned. Gifford organised the Walsingham plan to place Barrington and Queen Mary's encrypted communications into a beer-barrel cork, which were then intercepted by Phillips, decoded, and sent to Walsingham. Mary's reply was clearly encouraging and sanctioned Babington's plans. Walsingham had Babington and his associates rounded up. 14 were executed in September 1586. In October, Mary was put on trial under the Act for the Surety of the Queen's Person in front of 36 commissioners, including Walsingham. During the presentation of evidence against her, Mary broke down and pointed accusingly at Walsingham, saying, "All of this is the work of Monsieur de Walsingham for my destruction." To which he replied, "God is my witness that as a private person I have done nothing unworthy of an honest man, and as a Secretary of State nothing unbefitting my duty." Inevitably, Mary was found guilty, and the warrant for her execution was drafted, but Elizabeth hesitated to sign it, despite pressure from Walsingham. Walsingham made arrangements for Mary's execution. Elizabeth signed the warrant on the 1st of February 1587 and entrusted it to William Davidson, who had been appointed as Junior Secretary of State in late September. Davidson passed the warrant to Cecil, and the Privy Council, convened by Cecil without Elizabeth's knowledge, agreed to carry out the sentence as soon as was practical. Within a week, Mary was beheaded. On hearing of the execution, Elizabeth claimed not to have sanctioned the action and that she had not meant Davison to part with the warrant. Davison was arrested and imprisoned in the Tower of London. Walsingham's share of Elizabeth's displeasure was small because he was absent from court at home in the weeks just before and after the execution, ill. Davison was eventually released in October 1588. The Spanish Armada, 1588. From 1586, Walsingham received many dispatches from his agents in mercantile communities and foreign courts detailing Spanish preparations for an invasion of England. Walsingham's recruit of Anthony Stanton, a friend at the Tuscan ambassador to Madrid, was an exceptional intelligence triumph, and Stanton's dispatches were deeply revealing. Walsingham worked to prepare England for a potential war with Spain, in particular by supervising the substantial rebuilding of Dover Harbour and encouraging a more aggressive strategy. Walsingham supported Francis Drake's raid of Cadiz in 1587, which wrought havoc with Spanish logistics. The Spanish Armada sailed for England in July 1588. Walsingham received regular dispatches from the English naval forces and raised his own troops of 260 men as part of the land defences. On the 18th of August 1588, after the dispersal of the Armada, Naval Commander Lord Henry Seymour wrote to Walsingham, "You have fought more with your pen than many have in our English Navy fought with their enemies." The Lopez Plot, 1594. Between 1593 and 1594, agents uncovered an alleged plot by the Queen's own physician, Dr. Rodrigo Lopez. Lopez had been in secret contact with the Spanish court and was accused of scheming to assassinate Elizabeth. In 1588, Spain had dispatched a 130-ship naval fleet as part of a planned invasion of England. The invasion failed, but with the invasion fresh in people's minds, it was easy to imagine that the accusations against Lopez were true. Despite Lopez's protests of innocence, he was executed for treason. Finally, England's first great experiment in government-backed spying network brought down a queen and perhaps a playwright, saw kidnappings, executions and murders. The fact that Elizabeth I reigned for 44 years and died naturally in her sleep is evidence of its success. Walsingham himself died in 1590, and since there was no structure in place to maintain the spy network, much of his work was lost. The Earl of Essex and Sir Robert Cecil both tried to take Walsingham's place as spy master, using their achievements to compete for position at court. But with no single person in charge, English agents often failed to collaborate. The Elizabethan Secret Service therefore ended on the death of Walsingham. Please subscribe, like or click on the bell to be notified of other upcoming videos. Thank you for watching. See you soon.